Hi, Geeks and Gamers. Matt Lemke here with Through Gamer Goggles, and we're at Origins Game Fair, and I'm here with Randall, Neil, Mick, Bills.
Just Bills. Randall, no Bills.
I don't know.
Or just Randall. You know, it's all good.
Randall's all good. That's what I do when I email him back and forth, saying, hey, what's going on? And I think we've only seen each other like 3 times now in 4 years. So, but anyway, we're going to chat about catalysts, up-and-coming events, new things that are happening, Sprawl Gangers, which if you haven't seen the minis, they're phenomenal, and Shadowrun Crossfire. What else is new? Well, the card game I'm really looking forward to, and there's some new stuff happening with Valiant. So we're going to start with Sprawl Gangers because somewhere down the line in the last 10 years, I became a minis guy, and those minis are so cool. So Sprawl Gangers, I believe, was slated for sometime last year, and I don't know what the hiccups were, but I think it was worth it because I've seen the renders on their blog, and it looks like they're going to be ready sometime. They'll have some promo copies or prototype copies at Gen Con.
We'll have hopefully we'll have prototypes of the miniatures, but the game itself probably won't release until early next year.
Oh, okay. Okay. Still playtesting, working out rules, or?
We're hopefully by the time I get back, when I get back from Origins, then I have about a 3-week sprint to finish up the Valiant role-playing game and get that off to print. And then I'll have about a 3-week window between there and Gen Con to roll up to get all of the rules into a final stage and then roll out into what will be the 3rd and final playtest cycle. And I've had I think 40, 50 groups that have been involved in the playtesting on it. So it's a really large playtest.
If you haven't done anything with Valiant, the quick starts are available and they're free, and it's very much worth it. It's a very unique system.
Yeah, really fun, really easy to get into. We tried really hard to make it this feeling of what a lot of comic fans do anyways, which is, hey, I just read that great issue, and Peter Stanchek did this awesome thing, but if I had his power, I'd do this. And of course, that's exactly what the Valiant role-playing game allows you to do. It allows you to really make the powers your own and the characters your own in a really easy way.
That sums it up pretty much, too. Really, I didn't quite have that spin, but that drives the nail that I was driving in all the way. Wow. So back to Sprawl Gangers real quick. The rules system, how closely related is it gonna be to Shadowrun?
It's closely related in that it's handfuls of D6s. It is a lot of the terminology is the same. I tried really hard as I was constructing the game so that if you are playing the Shadowrun role-playing game and then you start reading the Sprawl Ganger rules, you're going to have these touchstones of terminology that will mean the same thing between both, and it's going to ease your play in a lot easier. And then hopefully in the reverse might be the case. As somebody who picks up Sprawl Gangers because there's a miniatures players, they really get into it, they fall in love with the universe, and then they decide, well, hey, maybe I'll go ahead and pick up that beginner box for Shadowrun and check it out, and then they're going to have a much easier time understanding the rules and sliding into that. So there's a lot of feel of the same sort of successes that you're trying to get, and D6s and tests, and all of that is very similar to it. When it gets into the actual style of play, one of the things I was trying really, really hard to do is there's not a good miniatures game, at least not that I've found, that does 3D play very well.
No, there's not a lot.
And what I mean by that is not just, well, now my mini's up on top of the building, and so he is able to get rid of your cover. I'm not talking about that style of play. What I wanted to see, Shadowrun, like all of us do when we play games or when we're playing a role-playing game, we have the cool movie in our head that's rolling out what our guys are doing. And so we know exactly how cool this thing is. And I wanted a miniatures game that my street samurai can be running along a rooftop, dodging bullets, leap out over the rooftop, falling down a level, crashing through a window, do a dive roll and come up, guns blazing, and take a character out.
Well, it's Jackie Chan.
Exactly. Or I think it was the second Bourne movie when he's racing along and leaps off and down into it, and that's the type of thing that I'm like, there's not a minis game
That captures
captures that feel, and so we tried really hard to
wait to
develop
play now.
rules that captures that feel, and I think we've done it. And ultimately, we won't know until it gets out and you guys let us know whether we did that. But that was, I think, if you can think of anything that we tried to do on the pure playing at the game side, that was the feel we're trying to capture. The other side of it is that Ross Watson, who co-designed the rules with me, and it was so fantastic to work with him. Such a great guy, fantastic designer. We play a million different miniature games, and one of my all-time favorites is Necromunda. And for those that don't know about this, it was a game published many, many, many years ago by Games Workshop.
Still very popular.
And what made it so good was the campaign side of it, the building of these miniatures teams and watching the characters grow, and a style of play that most miniature games just don't have. They didn't have it then, which is what made Necromunda so special,
Right.
and they still really don't have it now. And so just as much time went into as much time as we spent working on the rules, we spent just as much time trying to craft a really robust campaign system of being able to build these gangs. So when you're starting playing, it's going to come out and it's going to be the Halloweeners versus the Ancients out of the gate. There's other gangs will then follow on. But then you build these characters, and after you have a game session, then you have a post-game session. And your gangers are then going out into their various turfs, and they're working the turfs, and they're getting new yin, and they're getting various things that they can then use to build their characters to then increase their abilities, and then you go into the next game, and then you can use that. And maybe a guy gets hurt bad enough in one game that when you go into the post-mission session, he's actually down. So then the very next game, you actually can't use that guy because he's still healing, and that type of rolling it through is just not something you really see in most miniatures games, and I think that's really going to set the game apart.
That makes the game actually strategic and
Yeah.
not just tactical. Most miniature games are only tactical.
Yeah,
Because, the difference is strategy is long-term and tactics is we have to do this to take that hill.
yep,
And that's really cool because I have felt that that's been missing in miniature gaming for quite a while.
Yeah.
You don't really get it.
Well, the closest that I kind of get to that, and it's the reason why we played, even though it's a hideously long game, is if you've played the 1940s Pacific and Europe Giant Axis and Allies game. And it's 10, 12 hours, but the strategic level of having to sit back and think about force movement at that size and scale is just not something you get. And then when you're shrinking down into a minis game, being able to think long term about, I got this guy and I'm pushing him in here, but he's the best guy I've got and he's cornered. And if he gets too wounded, he might be out for a couple of games, and how much impact is that going to have on my long-term campaign?
Right.
I better fall back. And so that's a level of play that hopefully will come out very quickly as you're playing.
That would be very nice.
So Catalyst, it's our Tumblr on Catalyst Game Labs, as well as shadowruntabletop.com. I just put up, if this sounds even remotely interesting to you, you'll have to go back a couple of days because we do posts up there one or maybe twice a week. And you'll need to kind of dig back to it, but there's a massive post talking about where we're at with Sprawl Gangers, shows the renders of a couple of the miniatures, and we're working with, I want to give a shout out to Jeff and his team at Greenbrier who are doing the renders and helping us with production.
Yeah, where are they?
Well, they're not here at
they're
the show.
They're in the hall. That's right.
Yeah, well, Jeff's not here, unfortunately, or else
Right.
I probably might have dragged him into this. But yeah, Greenbrier Games is in the hall.
I didn't know he was working.
yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's the guys that we're working with on this, and the renders that him and Jed, the renders they've been turning over are just jaw-dropping. I just sit and stare at them for a couple of minutes
No wonder he's
before
so
I can
busy.
even respond. So yeah,
Oh, I've been
So-
talking to him for the last few weeks about how we. I thought, well, that's not important.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Catalyst games.
So there's Sprawl Gangers. Next one you mentioned was Crossfire.
Yeah, Shadowrun Crossfire.
Crossfire is a deck building game. For those who haven't heard about it, Crossfire is a deck building game that'll be coming out for Shadowrun. Once again, that was announced as coming out last year, and we're finally getting it out this year. Just as kind of a quick aside, really it's our passion and love for Shadowrun and our desire to do just the coolest things possible really kind of got away from us.
I'm not.
And we're finally kind of catching up to all the grandiose plans that we had.
I'm not big on customizable deck games because probably from all the years of Magic the Gathering, I've played like 14 years of it. And I played Crossfire last year here with the prototype cards, and I'm like, man, this is really. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to level anything up. I didn't get to take the campaign aspect of it, but I just played Pathfinder's card game, and they have the same kind of concept of possible, the campaigns and the scenarios, and it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I hope that the genre sticks and you can capture the elements because like from what I saw last year, you guys were doing a good job and you were still playtesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't imagine where it's at now.
Well, I think the two things you hit on, two of the things I think that really set Crossfire out, because there is starting to be a lot of good deck building games. I've played almost every last one of them. Some of them we play quite a bit. I played the Star Trek one to death. Really enjoyed that deck builder. But one of the things that my favorite styles of games is when there's lots of player interaction. And so one of the things that I have a problem with in deck building, and so some of the deck building games, even though the mechanics are really well, ultimately I don't play them because you're really just playing by yourself. You're not really playing against the other players at all. And so what we want to do with Crossfire, and again, giving a nice shout out to Jay and his team at Fire Opal, were the guys that designed this game. And then we just come along and talk about it, kick it really hard, and then they go back in the trenches and they put out just a phenomenal game. But the idea was to make it a true cooperative deck building game, which there really hasn't been to date. And so it's, you live and die together. You'll be throwing yourself in front of the character next to you to stop the bullets from taking them down, because if you go down, then you might abort the entire mission, and then you might lose. And so there's a lot of great interplay. And then the second part, and again, this all comes back to, I believe Shadowrun is such a cool universe that it can be played and enjoyed in any medium. But ultimately, the heart and soul of Shadowrun is about the role-playing experience. And the role-playing experience is about building a team and then watching that team develop across time. So as we're developing Sprawl Gangers, that's why we focus so hard on the campaign. And then Crossfire has the exact same thing. You are developing your team across time. So every time you play, you're going to get some karma, and then you can take that karma and you can buy stickers, and those stickers are then various upgrades that allow you to do various cool things while you're playing, and you fill the slots up on your card. You have 4 slots, and then once those are full, that's all the slots you can have. So then when you get another really cool upgrade, you might have to go, wow, that one upgrade was really cool, but this is an even better one, so I'm just going to sticker right over the top of that and replace my old alphaware arm with a new betaware arm, and so on. And there's enough stickers and cards so that right out of the gate you could actually go a couple of weeks where you're developing that orc samurai, and then suddenly you decide, you know what, I want to try a dwarf mage, and pull the dwarf card out and start playing down that road. And so it just has such a great, almost infinite play capability there.
Yeah, it should never be the same game twice.
No, never.
And that to me is part of what makes a game good. I don't like playing games where it's like, okay, I have to do this strategy now or I lose.
Yeah.